The Tetons and the Snake River by Ansel Adams. There are photographs that document a moment, and then there are photographs that transcend time entirely. Ansel Adams' The Tetons and the Snake River, taken in 1942 in what is now Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, belongs firmly to the second category. This is not merely a landscape photograph, it is a meditation on the American wilderness, a masterwork of light, composition, and technical precision that has become one of the most recognized images in the history of photography. But before we lose ourselves in the image itself, let's spend a moment with the man behind the lens. Ansel Easton Adams was born in San Francisco in 1902 into a family of modest means but great intellectual curiosity. As a child, he was restless, unconventional, and largely self-educated. At the age of 14, his parents gave him a Kodak box Brownie camera during a family trip to Yosemite. And that was it. That single moment planted a seed that would grow into one of the most consequential careers in American visual art. Adams trained seriously as a classical pianist throughout his youth, and this musical background never left him. He often spoke of photography in musical terms. The negative, he said, is like a musical score, and the print is the performance. That philosophy of precise, intentional craft would define everything he did behind the camera. In the 1930s, together with photographer Edward Weston and others, Adams co-founded Group F64, a collective dedicated to sharp focus, large-format photography that pushed back against the soft, painterly pictorialism that had dominated fine art photography until then. They believed the camera should be unapologetically itself, precise, honest, luminous. Adams also developed what he called the zone system, a technical framework for understanding exposure and contrast that gave photographers unprecedented control over the tonal range of a print. It remains a foundational concept in photography to this day. Throughout his life, Adams was also a passionate conservationist, using his images as quiet but powerful arguments for the protection of America's wild places. His relationship with the Sierra Club and the U.S. National Park Service was not incidental. It was central to his identity and his art. He died in 1984, leaving behind a body of work that permanently changed how human beings see landscape photography. Now, let's look at this photograph. The Tetons and the Snake River was commissioned as part of a mural project for the U.S. Department of the Interior, intended to decorate government buildings and remind Americans of the natural heritage worth protecting. Adams captured it in the late summer of 1942, shooting from an elevated vantage point near the Snake River overlook. The composition is nothing short of extraordinary. Your eye enters the image from the lower right, drawn along the luminous, sinuous curve of the Snake River as it winds through the valley floor. That river is the spine of the image. It doesn't just flow through the landscape, it conducts your gaze, pulling you deeper and deeper into the frame, further and further into the wilderness, until it deposits you at the foot of the Grand Teton Mountains themselves. This kind of compositional journey, foreground leading to midground leading to background, is classical in structure, almost Baroque in its theatrical depth. But Adams executes it with such apparent naturalness that it feels discovered rather than constructed. The tonal range in this print is breathtaking. Adams used a red filter on his lens to darken the sky dramatically, turning what might have been a pale, washed-out expanse into a brooding, cloud-filled drama. The result is a sky that feels almost apocalyptic, vast, threatening, alive. Against this dark canopy, the snow-capped peaks of the Tetons glow with an almost supernatural brightness, as though they are lit from within. Light and shadow are not just elements here. They are the emotional language of the photograph. And then there is the sheer spatial grandeur. The image contains multitudes, a sky, mountains, forest, flatlands, a river, and the gentle curve of an eroded riverbank, all coexisting in a single unified frame. Yet there is no sense of crowding. Everything has its place. Everything breathes. Adams printed this image many times over the course of his life, and he was famously exacting about each print, adjusting contrast, dodging and burning specific areas to control exactly where your eye travels and how long it lingers. What you're looking at is not a passive recording of nature. It is a deeply considered artistic argument about what nature means. The photograph was included on the Voyager Golden Record in 1977. The disc launched into deep space aboard the Voyager 1 and 2 spacecraft, carrying selected sounds and images representing the diversity of life and culture on Earth. NASA chose this image as one of humanity's messages to the cosmos. Think about that for a moment. If an intelligence somewhere in the universe were to open that record and ask, "What did Earth look like?" part of the answer would be this photograph. That is the weight this image carries. The Tetons and the Snake River endures not because it flatters nature, but because it tells the truth about it, its scale, its indifference, its terrible beauty. Adams stood at that overlook in 1942 and made a photograph that still stops people in their tracks more than 80 years later. In an age of infinite images, that is no small thing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis, please subscribe and leave a comment below. What other works would you like to explore? See you next time.